Just a quick example here to show you how to make your tools that you build in the model builder more portable. You'll be applying these tools several times, and so if you can add new data but run the tools without having to do much in the way of changes, it really makes things run more smoothly. You can also then copy these tools from old projects to new projects and not have to worry about resetting a bunch of directions. And it's pretty simple. It's just in the naming convention. So here's a tool that I've created that helps me build a new canopy. Basically, we're going to have to add canopy to mitigate rainfall because then we'll be adding area that intercepts. Now, I wrote this tool so it just adds mature, deciduous, tall canopy. So I digitize points because it's a lot easier to digitize the center of where each new tree is going to be. But when I do that, then if I create the trees by buffering, there's going to be overlap with existing canopy and overlap with buildings. So I'll have to erase that new canopy or the existing canopy by the new canopy that I build, and also erase the canopy by the buildings. And then assign attributes that make sure it's tall and deciduous, so when I run it through the rest of my workflow, I can go ahead and then have an intact canopy, just like the canopy that we provided that was digitized. So this is a quick and easy way, just digitizing a bunch of points instead of trying to digitize the boundaries and worry about it. Well, that's good, but I'll want to do that maybe several times or at various different levels. And so I'm going to try and make a model that is portable across various different projects. And the way I do that is for the parameters, the things that I'm going to want to save between runs, so the tree canopy and the buildings that exist, then my new stems, those are the points that I digitized, and then my output here, the deciduous canopy, I want to make those addressed in my workspace in a generic way, and everything else I want to make sure that they're addressed in my scratch space. And the way I do that is when I'm entering these parameters, so when I, for example, tell it what the parameter is going to be, where it is, I, at the start here, type in, and this is when I'm entering it, this percent workspace %/tree canopy. When I'm entering, that's where what I put. And tree canopy is the name of the input. And so that percent workspace in front of the parameters that I want to exist between runs, make sure that, it's just going to look to whatever the default workspace is. And then everything that I have in between that I don't want to save, if I look at it, basically, I have it as a percent scratch, capital GDB %, and then backslash, and then the name of whatever I'm going to call it. So anything that I create that I want to go away, that I don't care about, I just put this percent scratch paste GDB in front of it. And anything I want to keep, I make sure I have that percent workspace in front of it. And so that percent workspace, percent backslash, means that that stuff's going to be saved. And then when I'm working in a project, I make sure I have my environment set up so that my workspace and scratch workspace are set to wherever I want them to be, usually in the current directory. Now remember, I told you in my current project I usually create a local scratch geodatabase. You don't have to do that. This could also be your My Project 14 GDB. But I just do that so that when I'm debugging, I can look in that when I'm running inside this validate and run model in the model builder. I can look in that and see what the intermediates look like. Once I'm done, these can both point to the same place, but you do that on a project by project basis. So if I go ahead and do this, then I can basically run the tool, and the tool asks me for what my parameters are. And so the new stems I'm going to have to set to a value, my yet more stems. So that's a value here that I created and I went and digitized. I have my basically yet more stems in my current project that I'm running. And then my outputs, or sorry, my other inputs are the tree canopy, and the output is this comcan decid, and then the other input is the buildings. And so these are my three inputs, and here's my output. And so if I go ahead and run that, it just runs through this. And when it's done, if I've executed my model, built my model correctly, and I've executed it, then I get with this model complete. So I can go and look back in my catalog and see here I have my output data, And that output data are just my new tree canopies here, integrated with the old. So it is clipped here, clipped by the buildings. And if I look at the values here, I can see that I've assigned it a deciduous tall characteristic. So then if I go and enter it into my workflow to calculate the throughfall, I have my new canopy here, and I can do that then with the same model or the same workflow that I've used. If I build a model for all my separate workflows here, that I can be flexible in where I apply them, then I have a much more useful and general product. Now, how do I go about copying this model to another project that I have going? Well, I have another project here that I've opened. I can go ahead and remove from this project. So I've done a project before. Let's say I create a new project, or I have a project before I want to copy a model into. Well, if I basically add a folder connection and navigate to where that project is, so here's my project 19, the new project I have. I see I have this new project 14 and then my project 19. And here are my project toolboxes. There's nothing in this toolbox. I can go ahead and copy, if I right-click and copy that tool, and then I right-click on top and paste, my tool is now here inside this new toolbox. I've been careful about setting my paths so that I can now open the model in this project that's inside this toolbox, because this is now copied into this set of files. So if I open this project in ArcGIS, I can go ahead then and run that tool inside that new project. I could go ahead and close this up, right? Save it and start a new project, right? So here's a new project. That's my project 15. Okay, fine. It'll erase all these connections. I can go then to my folders, right? And add a folder connection. I can go back to this desktop and grab that project 19 and say OK. And then I can go to this project, right? And copy this model. And then go to my existing project, open its toolbox, and paste the model. And now the model is there, and then I can go ahead and edit or add or open the model inside this new project. So it's a way, if you make sure you do the percent workspace and percent scratch geodatabase before you or while you're building the model, you can go ahead then and make that model more flexible and usable, and you can easily transfer that model across projects. I typically have, when I build a model I'm going to use that's general, I copy it into a generic project, and when I'm going to use these models I built before, I just open a copy of that generic project and build, and all the models are there available. Anyway, a good way to capitalize on your work and make it more flexible.